Okay, so we're going to do a little video here before we, the day before we do our actual meeting for each class. If you haven't, go on to your email, find the email from the school, and I think it was something about, online learning, like a plan or something, and it should be on the Highland website also. But please go on that and check that out because that's going to be really important for the upcoming who knows how long, right? At this point, it's through April. So at least through this month, we're going to be hitting it on this exact way, okay? Wednesdays are going to be us meeting in classes and stuff like that. So if you need to figure out how to do the Google Meet, this World History Online Classes thing that I have here, on the Reign of Terror, it should be right in there. I think I put it in there and talked about it a little bit. But if you go to the World History Classroom, each class, like this will be first hours, so Wednesday at 8:30 or whatever, we'll go on there and I'll try to set it up that way. So I'll try to set it up a little early for them and try to get them started right away because I don't know exactly how it's going to set up, so we'll figure that out. But that's where you'll go. It should be on every classroom. So how I want you to go about this, the Reign of Terror reading, okay? So I want you to read it. I want you to use these questions here to kind of help you to go through this document, right? And I'll show you exactly how I would like it on the document, okay? So this is Psychology's, and this is Charlie's. She put all of her questions here, okay, that she was needing to look into. And if, say, she found this right here, so this is the part that would go right to it. So I want you to find something, okay, so if you find this, then add your comment. That's how I would like you to do it because it's really easiest for me and yourself, so you don't have to go back and forth from this to another document to something else, right? And for me, I can go through this, and if I want to see, where she's like, oh, confused, she's confused there, and I can go in there and figure out, okay, how can I do that? And then I can add, reply to her there, so I can go here and reply to that and try to explain it a little bit more, okay? That's what I would like you to do. That would make it easier for everyone. And this is just how it's going to be consistency-wise. It's going to help everyone kind of consistently stay that way. That's what I'm going to do for sure. And like I said, in the Google Groups, we're not doing that anymore. I thought that it would be easier, but it's not quite what I was hoping. In that video, if you watch, which you should have watched it, I talked about it a little bit and said, that's kind of not what we're doing. So I'll put a question in if we're going to do a written discussion. And we might. Next week, maybe we'll do a written discussion on like Tuesday, okay? And then Wednesday, we'll just talk a little bit about it and then move on from there. So you'll have your question. You can put your comments here, and then you can reply to each other. And I'll probably have you guys reply at some point, right? But so that's what I want you to do for this. And if there's a video, please watch it because I try to explain things fairly well in the videos. Because I know writing, like typing it down or, sending an email doesn't always help. It doesn't really make it all that easy, much easier. But if I can go through and like explain it like this, I'm going to try, okay? So we were talking Reign of Terror, and what we're going to do today is we're going to have about 6 slides of people that were, really connected to this revolution, okay? And we talked about Louis the last time we did notes, which has been a while now. So you should have him in your notes. So, like I said, he's a young king. And usually, right, how they come to power is their dad, usually their dad, right? We only had a couple queens, and those were in England. Their dad dies, and then their, next in line, their heir apparent comes in and is the king, right? So that's how that works. And he marries young, and his wife is also young, and it's a very political marriage, right? So the next slide will show her. It's Marie Antoinette. She's Austrian, and they really try to do it politically. And so that's all it pretty much is, because she's the daughter of the Holy Roman Emperor Francis I, and she's this Archduchess of Austria. And like I said, she's all of these marriages in these royal families are pretty much political. I mean, it is a way to gain an advantage or gain an ally. In this case, right, they're probably getting allies with France. Two large empires, an alliance is beneficial for them. So they do it by marriage because it's the easiest way to do it. And she's this last queen before the French Revolution, and she lives. And this is where you see a lot of these royal families are living very lavish lifestyles, so very fancy and expensive lifestyles. And she comes into France, and they have all the wealth at the top. Remember, we have the estate system where we have these, very small number of people at the top that are benefiting from the majority and the majority's money. Well, lack of pretty much money, but everything the majority has is going to the minority. And so they use it and spend it pretty extensively. Like she spends a lot of money, okay? So Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette, they have 4 children. I kind of cut that bottom part off. But it's funny that you see the bottom one also, it says something underneath the little thing my little screen part, and the bottom one also died of tuberculosis. So they have all 3 of their children that died before adulthood died of tuberculosis. Okay, so we have age 7, age 10, and then what do you have? Not even a year. Okay, so one reaches adulthood. It's a daughter, and we know that daughters really aren't seen as what men are, and as far as royalty goes. But she married her first cousin, probably because it was a beneficial marriage for the family to have some sort of royal connection. But you see a lot of this, they die of these diseases and illnesses that you don't really hear about all that much. And partially because, it's the 1700s and they don't quite have the same kind of medicine we do. But there's a reason that they have these, issues. There's when you have a lot of these, like the gene pool is not very deep in a lot of royal families, okay? But with Louis the 17th, it says his heart was finally buried with his parents in 2004. So somewhere along the way, that when he dies, the doctor, the person that's kind of exhuming his body and getting him ready for burial, takes I don't know if it's a doctor or somebody, but they take the heart, and they either, I don't remember if it was they kept it or they sold it, but it ends up getting, kind of passed around and sold around. And it finally, in 2004, he died in 1795. In 2004, it's finally buried with his parents. Okay, which is crazy that it's gone that long and stayed in, not been lost or, destroyed in some way, to be able to be buried again, which is a really strange thing to have happen. Oh, and in the top right, we have the Marie Antoinette, 3 kids. Obviously, I don't think it's the last one, but we have our 3 children. Okay, and then Louis and Marie on the bottom left, or the left side. Okay, so this is the burial site of Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette, and it's the Basilica of, I don't know if it's probably Saint Denis, but I'm not a French speaker, so, But I mean, this is a pretty extravagant, you know, basically church. And in the top right is their burial sites. Those are their tombs. And when you start looking at a lot of these, you know, you see a lot of, ever since kind of the Renaissance, they really have these really extravagant tombs that they're put into. And it's something that is kind of another status symbol, right? I mean, they're the king and queen. So, like, they've, by God's divine right, they're put in charge of all these people, you know, and they're put in this position. So this is kind of what they get out of this when they die, and they're crazy, detailed, you know, tombs. And if you look it up, you can find some that some of the famous artists of the day in the Renaissance, you know, made for people, and it's just kind of crazy. So Marquis de Lafayette up here. Oops, dumb thing. So Marquis de Lafayette is kind of a big important figure in both in the American Revolution, big time, and he's a French officer, military officer, and he's a really, actually pretty good friend of Thomas Jefferson's. Okay, because Thomas Jefferson was the basically, I don't want to say it, ambassador to France for the Americans. So he and Lafayette kind of spend a lot of time together. It ends up being that, you know, Jefferson helps, you know, pull the French into the American Revolution to help us. Also, it's kind of like, you know, they're helping us, but also not just helping us, they're hurting their enemies, which are the British. And he believed in a constitutional monarchy, which was having a king and queen, but you have a constitution that kind of guides the government. Okay, this monarch is guided by a constitution. And he believed in revolutionary ideals. You know, they could be kind of put together with these traditional ideals. Okay, so that's where that constitutional monarchy comes into play. And he wants a National Assembly, which is kind of what you'd think of as Congress or Parliament in England. You know, something where there's a body of people that, you know, can help create laws and do all these things, help run this government, and not just have a king and queen that's absolute, right? So there's kind of this mix of, you know, traditional with the monarch, because that's all they've ever known as a monarch. So they kind of want to keep it that way. And a lot of the people after the revolution still want to keep a monarch, but they don't want an absolute monarch that has absolute power. Okay. So he kind of feels this way. He can kind of mix both a little bit. And the next guy we look at is kind of a big, you know, anti that. He wants to get rid of kind of everything, it seems like, and heads and all. But if you ever go down to Monticello, which is Thomas Jefferson's home in Virginia, there's actually a painting of Lafayette in Thomas Jefferson's home, in like one of his like sitting rooms. Basically, he's got a big painting that's probably, if I had a bet, it's like maybe maybe like 5 feet tall by about 3 feet, 4 feet wide. Large painting in there. So Maximilien Robespierre, he is, when you guys read about your Reign of Terror, and that's this guy. I mean, he is the one that really leads this Reign of Terror. Okay, probably one of the more influential people in the revolution, and he helped create this Committee of Public Safety, which when you're doing your reading, you'll find out about them. But that's kind of what leads to that. That's kind of what leads this violent revolution. Okay, and he opposed slavery on any French soil. So that's in the borders of France and also abroad, any territories they have. Okay, because remember they have been going around and colonizing areas since, well, the late 1500s. Okay, all these European countries have been sending people out and exploring and taking and settling lands. So there are, French territories all over too. So, he did some good. But he also, when you look at your, with the Reign of Terror reading, he led something that ended up being really, really kind of devastating and dangerous with the Reign of Terror. And it ends up, he ends up getting his head cut off also. So that's good stuff. Right here. Okay, so this Committee of Public Safety, or for Public Safety, was created and then kind of almost immediately restructured. And it kind of forms a government. So once they get rid of the king and queen, this is kind of what creates a government. He's kind of in charge. This group is kind of in charge at a certain time, right? For basically a year. And that's why they're able to do all this stuff with this Reign of Terror. And then later on, when we'll talk about Napoleon later. And Napoleon Bonaparte is one that really takes power, and the people love him right away. And then he starts doing things that are kind of like monarch-like, and we'll talk about that in our next one. But this is kind of connecting to your Reign of Terror and the people connected with it. Okay, so please do the reading. Please be prepared for Wednesday in our meeting, and we'll be all good. So if you have any questions, like I said, always say, email me, whatever, get in contact with me. I'll try to answer them the best I can. Hopefully everybody's turned stuff in. I'm going to have a homework page, and every Tuesday and Friday, I'm going to have you guys put, there'll be a form you have to fill out, and it's a Google form, and it's basically an attendance sheet. So if you'll need to show that you're in attendance, you've went on this and you filled this out, and that's how we're going to take attendance those days. Okay, so you'll go in Classroom and do it. And let me actually show you real quick. I think I haven't done it on here. Okay, so I'll show you what it looks like. So it's just the class. You choose the class, so world history, whatever class period, first, 6th or 8th. I have all my classes in there. What the date is of the class period, like Tuesday or Friday, what Tuesday and what Friday it is. So you'll, for tomorrow, it'll be the 14th. Your name, first name, last name, and then, that says geography. I need to change that. If you're working on your assignment now, so yes or no, or later today. So the goal is, guys, to be able to get this stuff kind of figured out so we can get on, we can do our stuff, we don't have to spend a ton of time, we get it done, and we move on, okay? I'm not looking to take your entire day with world history on Tuesdays and Fridays, okay? Shouldn't be, if you take an hour, you'll be just fine, and that's basically for a week of, if you put an hour and a half in a week for world history, you'll be done. That's easily done, okay? So, get your Reign of Terror stuff done. Please turn in the Revolution project. I've got a couple throughout. I don't know what, some people have turned it in. I really would like you guys to turn that in, because I'd like to share that with everybody to, show what you guys have done. But again, email me if you have any questions. We will see you on Wednesday.